Hello, everybody. We'll give it another minute. We got at least one more person hopping up on stage, and then give a minute for people to finish hopping in the audience, and we'll get started.
Test. Can you hear me, Bolan?
Yep, sounding good.
Nice.
All right. We'll go ahead and get started. It is Thursday, which means it is AMA time. As I'm sure you can tell, we're a little lighter on the stage this week than we normally are because several of our devs are here with me actually in Minnesota. They're not actually in the room with me because we have locked them in a room with Wisdom devs and they aren't allowed to come out. So they are not here for this week's AMA, but really excited to be here in, if I can do this now. Haha. Really excited to be here in Minnesota, and working with the Wisdom guys in person has been really, really cool. And as I'm sure you've all seen at this point, we are going to be doing an AMA with them in a little over an hour from now. So with that in mind, we are going to try to keep this one a little bit briefer and get through all the questions, but move it along a little bit so that there's a little more time from this one to that one, so that you all have the energy to just keep listening. In addition to that, we also have another AMA in 6 hours that is with Ethless, who is building a game called built a game called Battle Showdown, which they're integrating a couple of DFK characters into. So really excited for that. So we'll have that AMA with them as well. Looking forward to a whole day of talking to you guys. So let's see. I think I had something else, but I'll remember it in a minute. And for now, let's go over to friskyfox for his intro and updates.
Sweet, thank you. I'm kind of jealous of all the people that are out there with Wisdom, but also kind of not, because it's like freezing cold there, and I wonder how you're surviving over there, Bolan, with your natural affinity towards hotter weather, it seems like. But yeah, they're like really having a good time over there and like really getting a lot done. So that's awesome. It also means that I've been doing a lot of the Solidity things that are more related to some of the unlocking that is pretty close to us, and also some of the like interface for the unlocking as well. So I've been pretty busy with that. Also working on the auction house. I was able to get that changed into like using the standard for diamonds, and in the process sort of like re-engineered how we upgrade our like regular contracts into diamonds. And that's really opening up the door for us to do a lot more there. So I'm really excited about that. But it's pretty nerdy, so I won't get into the details. But switching back to talk a little bit about the unlocking. Last week we had a question about that, about how it will work in practice. And just sort of like what the user interface will be and the experience. And I did have a couple pictures that I could share from this morning, screenshots that I saved for you guys. So let's see. Here is one. I sort of like mentioned that in the jeweler, you'd have a new tab for unlocking. It'll look kind of like this. You'll be able to see how many locked crystals you have at the bottom. And then you'll see how many you can claim at the current time. And if you hit the button for unlocking, then it will unlock those and have them get put into your balance. So that's exciting. Another thing that will be going with this is we have to upgrade our chain to allow us to be able to set the crystal cap higher because of the changes to the tokenomics that we did last September. So it's been a long time coming. We've been really putting in a lot of work into it. And there's been a lot of like really good back and forth with Avalabs. And they actually just had a call this morning where they kind of were briefly talking a little bit about some of those things that had been done there. So we've been doing like local testing with that. And things are actually looking really good. We're considering now the time that we want to do for testnet, and we're currently just trying to like put some finishing touches on our like local testing, and then hopefully can schedule that testnet testing to begin tomorrow, which means the upgrade would be tomorrow as well. So fingers crossed on that. Obviously, if there are issues with our like local testing now, we'll have to push that a little bit. But the plan is to get that upgraded on testnet, and then have it get like really hit hard with like really good testing, because this is a whole new thing for any like subnets out there. It hasn't been done before. We're the first one to ever try it. So there's a lot of experimental things. We just want to make sure that everything goes really smoothly. So lots of testing. I spent basically all day yesterday just like writing a bunch of tests. Yeah, for everyone asking about my hat, this is just the old one for Jewel that I love. But I like to wear them backwards. I don't know why. But that's exciting. I'm like really excited about that. Huge shout out to Magnus, who's been very influential with having those get run on his local for testing, and he actually was able to find some issues too, which is great. So we got those fixed. Part of those changes will entail a change to how we do locked token transfers. And the reasoning here is that instead of having the unlocking happening through the Power token contract itself, we'll be having to facilitate it through another contract that will add some additional like protections and have us have the ability to basically fix some issues. Currently, there's an issue where players could basically like grief other players once the unlocking starts by sending them very small amounts of like locked crystals, and it would sort of mess with their like unlocking timings a little bit. So to fix that, we actually added a functionality that the player that's receiving the locked crystal tokens has to first approve the other address to be able to send it to them. So that will essentially make it so that other players can't just like send small amounts to you and screw with your unlocking, which I think is very important. So I actually have a picture of that too. Let me show you. Got multiple screenshots for you guys today. I think it's this one. Is that it? Yes, that's it. Okay. So it has sort of like a message there about that. And part of that change too is that the manager over at the jeweler, he will only be sending locked crystal tokens from now on, or I guess from like next week on when we launch this feature. He won't be sending unlocked tokens because you can already do that anyways. You don't need him for that. So it's just essentially trying to make it more explicit what it does and have some additional protections built into it. So that's some little bit of heads up for you guys. As I said, I'm trying to be, just a lot more like, here's what we're currently working on. Here's what we're currently doing. I want to make sure you guys are in the know because this is a like really collaborative process with our team and with you guys. So I don't ramble on. Let's see. Other updates. Pinecone added some really good chain monitoring things onto our chain, which I think I might have talked a little bit about last time, but he's just been improving them so that now if there's like any issue at all with our chain, we'll get a notification like ASAP, and have information about what it is, and then have the ability like to go fix it. And we actually had a alert earlier this week for our test net where it had a brief outage. So we had to go like restart like one of our nodes. So that was awesome that we had that up and like running and working, and were able to get that fixed prior to anyone even noticing it. So super stoked about that. Huge shout out to Pinecone for his efforts there. Let's see. We hit a milestone. We hit 10 million transactions on Clayton through like questing and other things. So that was a big like milestone for us there. We were stoked about. Let's see. We're still working on opening up the chain for more builders to come and more validators as well. We spoke with our lawyers about that and got some really good feedback. And it's basically all a go on that. So we're going to be like moving forward to see what's the best way to get that implemented. So I'm going to start on that as well. So really stoked about that, because that's really like the whole point of us creating this awesome chain, is to bring other builders onto it and have them start to create things too on this optimized chain for games. So let's see. One other thing, we did have a Kingdom Builders sort of initiative where we were trying to look at ways to open up our internal data warehouses to have like the analysts in the community have the ability to come in and access that data and create like reports and charts from it. So actually we onboarded our first community analysts into our Slack this week, and I'm super stoked about that. You guys probably know him, but I'm not going to mention his name yet. I'm not sure if we should announce that in a special way or something, but he's like really awesome. You can probably guess who it is. But I'm really stoked to see what he's able to come up with, because he's always made really good reports for us, and he'll be sort of like working with Burr on that, and I'm excited to see where that goes. So with that, that's all of my updates, and I'll hand the mic back over to Bolon, or I think Dreamer might have been next too.
Yep, we can go ahead and get an intro and some updates from Dreamer.
All right, let me see if this video thing works in Discord. I was peer pressured to do it. Selecting, turn on camera. Oh wow, I'm like hiding in the DFK map. We mentioned a hat. I am wearing a new hat design. I think it's pretty sick. We did some stickers that were like, I don't know the right word, I'm gonna get in trouble, but minimal. I don't know, removing all the colors, and I really like them. We did shirts as well before that had them, and now we have a shirt that has kind of more simplified logos there. They're pretty cool. This hat on the side is Kingdom Studios, and on the back shows Bullish. So yeah, tokens in the front, party in the back. Now y'all just saw my haircut. I miss my hair. It's too bad. Anyway, I'm gonna talk like this. I don't know if that's better or worse. Maybe my camera should be off. But anyway, to give updates. So Denver was really good. It was super cold, but very, very successful. There were so many people there. I don't know the exact number, but I heard that it was like 25K or more. What our strategy from like a business development and relationship management perspective that both Sunbear and Strider have been working really hard on, I'm really proud of their efforts, is really when it comes to marketing, when it comes to events, when it comes to a lot of like outward exposure, we're not dealing with a huge, massive, unlimited budget where we can just be like, boo, and throwing things out there and popping at booths everywhere. But a lot of our partners that are working with us have some of those opportunities. So at all these events, we're working really hard to leverage them and in a way that's mutually beneficial. So one of those was Hyperplay, which we announced that we are on their game launcher. If you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out. It's similar to other traditional like PC-based game launchers, but it's meant to support all like Web 2, Web 2.5, and Web 3 games, with us being like the flagship web browser game on there. Today, I don't know if there's a tremendous difference from running it natively, but in the future, they have a lot planned. There's actually a lot of good partners in the Hyperplay ecosystem, and there'll be some exciting things that improve overall experience. So go check that out. But they really pulled through for us. They had, booth there. They had an area with computers, and DFK was on display among other games. Able to pull it up. We did some interviews there as well, and got connected to a tremendous amount of awesome contacts. They were really looking out for us. Contacts related to the upcoming restart of a potential raise. Very strong interest verbally coming from these more strategic, gaming focused potential investors. Also, on the centralized exchange front, some of the major exchanges, the ones that we were connected with were out of Asia, top 3 out of Asia, that some of those talks went very long and, had a lot of potential. So huge shout out to the folks at Hyperplay for supporting us at ETH Denver and continuing to work with us. Bolon, should I turn off my video? Is it ridiculous? Should I change it?
No, you're good.
Okay. I can't stop looking at my face. Okay, so next, Super Oracles is the next one. So they held an event at night. Hopefully people got to tune in. I was able to join a panel that had some pretty awesome people on it, some of which we may or may not be in discussions to work together. The main highlight though of that night, I think, was Bolon speaking. He got up and wasn't nervous, dominated the conversation, engaging with the crowd, which may or may not have been a little bit biased to DFK, but, Crypto Grady and Ogre were in the crowd among others, and, he just crushed it. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out and cheer people on. It's hard to get up and talk in front of people. It's hard to know that you're on camera, and unsure what people are going to ask. Bolon controls the narrative here, but he was on the receiving end and he just crushed it. So big kudos to him. Dragon and Risen were in the background and doing a ton of work at the event as well. There was some content posted. A lot of work goes into that. Guerrilla marketing is hard, being out there, not having a plan, being able to make connections, interview people, get good footage, and then at the end of the day, when everybody's tired, go home. Dragon D's sitting there editing it for all of you guys. So it was a different approach at this event. Definitely tried to leverage partners and connections. Tried to do as much as we could to have a presence without actually having a booth, and it was quite successful. So kudos to everybody there, and thank you for the support and the patience. When we're traveling and out and about, it's sometimes hard to be as active either in Discord or other things. So striking that balance is important. I mentioned centralized exchanges, and I think there's been some questions here and there. Last week, I tried to give a timeline that I think I ended up confusing more people than I helped. So I was asked to kind of add a little bit more detail on that. The first thing is I want to make it clear the requirement to list on exchanges. Oftentimes we see tokens that either are quite small or people haven't heard of pop up on exchanges. And the question could be asked, hey, why is it so easy to get listed on all these exchanges? And why and have we not yet listed Jewel? Well, the second part of that question is because when we did start to consider the listing of Jewel, it was at a time when supply was very low, demand was really high, there's a lot of volatility in the market, and there were a lot of people that were worried about a premature listing, which I think was logical and we did not disagree with. In this market, though, the timing of a listing could be have a huge impact or just kind of be missed. But also the bigger part, though, the requirement. So if you look at the top 20 exchanges.
Could you repeat that last part? Sorry, you cut out for a second.
From where?
So you were saying the basically high volatility in the market, and then it kind of skipped for a second.
Oh, okay. High volatility in the market and a low supply would have potentially resulted in just a lot of unnecessary or unwanted price action that would have been bad for the overall token. So we were looking to allow it to, have a bit more track record, be a bit more stable. Now in the bear market, timing that listing is also very important, and making sure it's with the right exchanges. So I'm going to share some background of what's really required. to get listed. One big factor is money. Money to list kind of varies by exchange pretty dramatically. If you look at the top 10, top 15 global exchanges, some will require just a flat fee of 200K that you never get back. That's a fee to apply, and it's essentially once approved, like you pay that fee, and that's pretty steep in a bear market for our project when that could be going to building and other things. So now if you times that by 5, 10, 15, you start seeing the large price tag required to list. Now, there are some exchanges that actually have no fees. Instead, they say, hey, put a retainer down. And some of these retainers are listed at $500,000. They have to sit there for a year, and they kind of cover the centralized exchange in case you were like a bad actor or anything. So there's a list of covenants that you agree to that will essentially release that back to you after X period of time, or to the exchange if you don't keep the covenants. And the another piece is a marketing budget. So some marketing budgets, I haven't seen any so far less than about 200 to 300K, but they're like a fee, but the centralized exchange uses most, if not all of it, to reward their users. Now, if we were to spend that money on a centralized exchange, I think it would be best to be, rather than the form of fee or retainer, it would be best to be the marketing budget, where they actually work with us to market to their users to come into DFK in some way. So all of these are very serious decisions. So, the steps we're going through to educate ourselves on what's even out there, it's almost like we're looking for another chain. We wanted to talk to all the chains, exhaust all of our options, and then decide what it would be best, because we can't do all of these things. We don't have a huge treasury that's like, hey, let's just throw it at a bunch of different exchanges. Where we do allocate the capital earmarked for this, it needs to be the right choice, and that's where we said 1 to 2, because we need to have US be covered. So if it's a global exchange, that would be great if that's the route we go. But also there's some really good Asia-based exchanges that want to work with us and could greatly impact user acquisition through a partnership there. So we don't want to limit it to just one. It could be 2. If it's more than 2, then it also is going to dip into treasury, because we're going to have to work with our market maker to make sure there's enough jewel out there to support all this demand. So a lot of moving pieces here. Hopefully that's helpful transparency to see what is required and why we're working so hard to take our time and identify, what the best options are. The last piece is qualifying for it. So mentioned before a legal opinion that many require. They kind of require different levels. Some will be like anybody out of Singapore needs a full-blown opinion with a price tag of like 20 to 30K. That opinion takes at least a month to develop like a 30-page document. Some other exchanges will just be like, hey, attest that you're not a security and have it signed by your lawyer. That's going to be much shorter turnaround and not cost as much either. The last piece is some exchanges, they require you to start from the bottom and come up and be like, you got to list on 5 other like top 50 exchanges before we even consider you, because the biggest part of their requirement, in addition to everything else I've talked about, is volume, not decentralized volume from other centralized exchanges. We have nothing to measure there. So a lot of our discussions are finding loopholes around that. Really, the narrative is, hey, if we're going to be on like 1, max 2 centralized exchanges, the ones that get Jewel are likely going to stand out relative to their peers, differing from other tokens. So we're looking at for people that see that potential and want to work with us as more of like a short-term like strategic partner rather than just another token to list. So as we're out there, fighting for all of you on this, it isn't a casual, what are the requirements? Click, click, click. Here's money. Boom, listed. High five. There's a lot more going into it. It's a bit, I'd say, difficult, but we're doing well with it, and we're trying to make sure that we are representing well, and the decisions that we do make, the direction we do make, hopefully will be informed enough to know that it's among the best we could have made. I'll pause there. Bolon, Sasha, you guys have brought up, the request to go over some of this in more detail. Do we feel like we hit everything? Is there anything else I should add?
I think it was good.
Yep.
Sasha?
Everything fine?
Cool. Well, I will pause there and hand it back over to you, Bolon.
Appreciate it and appreciate the insight there again. A couple updates that I forgot to mention because I knew I forgot a couple things. First and foremost, thank you to Dragon T. This AMA as well as future stuff is actually also available on Twitter now. So right now we are live on Discord, YouTube, and Twitter. So just making it more accessible and trying to, help people be able to tune in from wherever they are and whatever their preferred platform is. So excited for that. I wanted to touch just real quick on Denver. Dreamer gave a really good summary of it, so I'm not going to say too much. But yeah, it was definitely a very successful time. There were a lot of people. The gamer event with Supra was a really, really good event that really brought together a lot of the more GameFi interested people that were in Denver. So that was really exciting, and it was definitely a good week, and hope we got to meet as many of you as were in Denver. And then I already mentioned that we're in Minnesota, but this has also been a really good week. There'll be more stuff coming. We've done a couple streams. Obviously, we have the AMA coming up, but we're also still producing some more content that'll be coming out a little bit later. So really excited to keep that coming, and glad to be here with our phenomenal friends at Wisdom. And one last thing is the tax service that we've mentioned a couple of times, BlockPit. We did send a tweet out about it as well, but they are officially launching with DFK support tomorrow. So very much excited for that. That's a huge, huge thing for us and for all of you. But really excited to have that in place and be able to help people get prepared for the unfortunate inevitability of tax season, because I don't like it, but it's going to happen anyway. So before we go into some questions, let's go over to Sashay, who had a couple updates for us as well.
Hey everyone. Just a quick update on the roadmap front. As you know, we're planning to rework and re-release our roadmap, and we actually have really great and exciting ideas. How is that going to look like? But it's still going to take just a little bit more time. And as an interim solution, we are planning to release our simplified roadmap into our white paper in the next days, so you all can check out what's coming next, what we already achieved, and what's coming in the future. And another thing I wanted to quickly mention, rather a sneak peek on the community side. I'm just gonna drop this in the chat and leave it uncommented before I go back to you, Bodon.
I feel like you ended with my name, but I missed the very last thing you said. Or I might have misheard you altogether.
Yeah, I just said it uncommented, but now you make me comment it. So yeah, we got an exciting casting update coming very soon.
Yes.
Exciting. Stoked about that.
All right. So let's go over to some questions for today. The first question, advertising within the game as income. So adding basically advertisements into the game. What our thoughts on that are, if it's something that we've considered or might consider. Probably start with Dreamer.
Can you repeat that? Sorry.
No, you're good. The in-game advertising.
Right. Cool. So this is an interesting question on the talk site. It's actually one that we've talked about recently. I can't remember if it was Strider or Sunbear. It might have been Strider. He brought it to our new business group that we meet every other week. There are a few options out there that offer ad services, and I'm just going to share transparency of what we're thinking about now and what the possibilities could be in the future. So what the committee concluded pretty immediately is that the map of DFK and DFK chain, which really the map of DFK is really a visualization of everything on the chain, not only our native protocols, game features, and analytics, but in the castle and the docks and beyond, has the potential to be so much more than that. And actually, let me on that note, let me just turn on my camera again. I'm sorry, I forgot to show this. This is a new DFK chain hat. That's really sick. DFK chain, Kingdom Studios. So something like this, if somebody were to come and build on DFK chain, they should expect to have support from the chain itself. Not necessarily having to be branded as only DeFi Kingdoms, but a collaboration with DFK chain being featured in the game in a gamified fashion that other chains really can't compete with. So the more people that we build with, it doesn't mean that they are only going to be on DFK chain. They could be on other chains, but as they collaborate with us, we want to do all we can to support them as a chain. When it comes to advertisements on the chain, what we've decided in the committee we do not want to do is have like in your face popping up like ads everywhere. We don't want that experience. We never have. But some of these offerings that are coming to us, they have a interesting proposition. It's essentially an opt-in experience to watch a related ad that we would be able to filter what that is, what qualifies as related, whether it's in Web3 or technology or gaming or whatever, and have those that are paying for the ad have part of that payment go to the user itself, maybe in the form of crystal or jade or runes or something. So like, let's say they're paying the viewer $2 to watch this ad. Maybe a dollar of that passively or on the front end buys up game tokens, which is good buy pressure for tokens, and rewards them to that individual. Now we also look at barriers to entry. Somebody comes in the game, they say, I want to watch a tutorial. Wow, this tutorial is sponsored by this ad company that's going to show me ads that are specific to Web3 or whatever. I'm going to watch one, and wow, that's going to give me enough to go and level up my first hero or something. This is the thought process of potential ad. It's pretty much the only way we would consider it currently. Nothing's been finalized. We haven't established any final partnerships or whatever. It's just initially we all kind of like said, no, well, we don't want ads, thanks, but no thanks. But we tried to stop and take a step back and listen and say, how could this not just benefit like us, but us as the development company, but benefit the actual player's experience? So that's the answer to the question. It's really ongoing. Curious what people think about that thought process, because nothing is set in stone at all. It's an interestingly timed question for an opportunity that came up, I think, like a month ago when that conversation first happened in our committee.
Thank you much, Dreamer. All right. So the next question is, when is the Duels Season 2 raffle? And Sasha, since you're here, you want to take that one?
Why are you gonna make me talk again?
That's
yeah. So that's pretty easy to answer. It's going to be after next week's AMA.
Perfect. Yes. So yeah, we'll just roll straight from the AMA. Probably 5-10 minutes later, we'll be on YouTube doing that raffle. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that, and stay tuned for it. Let's see. All right. Next question. Any plans of adding an LP zapper to the gardens?
I'll take that one. We've had this actually come up a lot over the past year and a half. It's just always been one of those things that's kind of like a nice to have that we haven't prioritized. It's basically, if I understand the question correctly, the ability to basically in one transaction add liquidity to the DEX and put it into the gardens at just like all in one action, basically. And I think currently it's 2 actions, because you first have to create the seeds and then go stake them in the gardens. It's just kind of one of those things that's like, yeah, that would be a little bit easier, but transactions are already so cheap, and we have our NPCs set up like right next to each other, so it's already a pretty low barrier. that it just hasn't been prioritized, I guess. Most of our users are sort of already used to doing a lot of transactions for having their heroes quest and level up and do that type of thing. And we are an on-chain game, so there's going to always be a lot of transactions. And yeah, I guess the ROI on there just isn't quite there yet.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And another question for us is any plans on implementing an address book function?
Well, I don't see Beetle here because he's there with Wisdom, I think, or at least he's on his way there. And so I'll take that one as well. Basically, we are working on adding a bunch of like in-game social features to our app. Not the least of which will be chat, which I think we've sort of like mentioned it in the past as well. And we have some good prototypes up and working, but it's just sort of making sure that it's like refined and that there's no issues with them, and also that we have good like moderation abilities in case we need that, because there's always the TTP that like we have to think about as well. So yeah, there will be things relating to guilds and like friends lists and the ability to like send messages to individuals and stuff like that. So that will be probably part of that initiative there. And I imagine an address book in like our interface game will probably just be like your friends list or something, and then you'll be able to like very quickly select them when you're sending items and things like that. Personally, I'm really, really stoked about that whole push that we are making to have more in-game social aspects, because that's sort of the whole point of like an online interactive game like this, where you're able to coordinate with your fellow players and compete against them and like trash talk or whatever it is. So really stoked.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well. I believe we have hit everything for today, in the spirit of keeping it a little bit briefer. Were there any updates from any of y'all that I have forgotten to queue up? Awesome. I'm taking that as a no. So really appreciate everybody hopping in today. I know we had a smaller group up here, but it's because work is being done, which is even better. And looking forward to the next AMA in about 40 minutes. So make sure you tune in for that as well. Really appreciate y'all. And we can go around for any final comments. Sasha, any final comments? Because I want to make you speak.
I know you want to make me speak. No, actually, no comments for me. Excited to see everyone in the Wisdom AMA. They have been working on some really, really great stuff, so don't miss it.
Thank you. Thank you. Dreamer?
Man, keep getting just distracted in chat talking Star Wars. Is this closing comments?
Yeah, any final comments?
Cool. Yeah, so I think we've already talked a lot on ETH Denver and others, but they just also wanted to thank Ava Labs looked out for us as well. They held an event. We got in there, prioritized. They had our backs as they always do. They also are working with us on the Avalanche Summit, which I wanted to highlight. A lot of work's been going on into that this week. They've been reaching out, looking to see how we could be highlighted and included. It's supposed to be an awesome event and one that we feel quite privileged to be a part of. A lot of people are going to be traveling a long ways and spending a lot of resources to participate, and they are looking out for us. So excited about updates there, and for everybody that we have kind of out in the field traveling and fighting the good fight. We are doing our best to maximize, I guess, results with the resources that we have available. So thank you everybody for the patience, the really good questions. Keep them coming if things don't make sense, but hopefully the review of the centralized exchange process was helpful. But if not, we can add more on that later. Over to you, Fox.
Thank you, Dreamer. Yeah, really been a busy week. I say that every single week because it's true. And our team has been hard at work. And if you see them, make sure to reach out and say thank you to them. There's really a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and spirit that gets put into this game from our awesome devs and everyone on our team. And even like here in the community, there's like so much being built by third party creators that are out there, whether it's art or tools or things like that. And I'm really, really stoked about all of that. So I want to say thank you to everyone here for all of the things you do. And together, we're all going to make it. So I'll just end by saying bullish and thanks for coming.
Bullish.
Bullish.
Bullish.